This is the push to curl throwing model. It helps you internally rotate and curl your wrist, which will help your power pocket. So if you've been struggling to get into a good internally rotated curled power pocket, then try this.
Pretty new.
It boosted my spin on average compared to my recent average spin around 80 RPMs, and I've only hit 1400 plus RPMs a handful of times, 1400 plus a few more handful of times recently with this.
I think this will help people improve their speed as well, especially if your power pocket needs improvement.
Throwing this way, I'm going to keep my elbow bent so you can see this clearly, and it's dipped. I'm going to think about using my whole arm to push my hand around the back of the disc and watch the elbow. And my wrist is curled. Elbow came up from an externally rotated elbow dipped position to an internally rotated elbow up position. This is what it looks like when I fully extend the elbow during the peak reach back and the start of the pull through, because the power pocket is largely dictated in the first split second of the pull through, and it's very hard timing wise to do something at that split second. So during peak reach back, which happens just before, is where we're focusing on doing this. So it's harder to see the shoulder rotation when my elbow is extended. That's why I showed it first with the elbow bent, but here's what it looks like. So watch my hand curl around the back of the disc because I'm pushing with my arm. So with this wall as a reference, that if I just curl my wrist and do nothing else right now, the disc moves down the line. This makes me think about curling the disc as pulling down the line. It makes my arm want to pull to curl, and a lot of people, when they pull, it makes them want to dip their elbow. So instead, again, using the wall as a reference, if I push to curl, push my whole arm around the disc, notice my wrist is fully curled around the disc now, and the disc did not move down the line yet. This is why it helps. Push to curl helps you internally rotate because it's helping reduce the urge to pull into external rotation, which dips your elbow, and this instead helps you offset that temptation by pushing to curl, which gets you internally rotated. Now, of course, this is not a brand new concept. You've all probably heard or thought about curl your arm around the disc in some way. Very logical to come to that idea even without needing to watch any form videos. You just see pros in this position and you go, just do that. It always felt so hard to just do that. It seems so easy, but then when I go to throw, it's so hard to do it. But now with this push to curl concept, it feels a lot easier to just do it. What's new is, for me,
Framing the concept differently.
because you'll notice here, I'm kind of pushing that way with my arm to get it to curl around the disc. Thinking about curl your arm around the disc didn't work as well for me. Probably as soon as I want to throw that way, I start reverting into pulling too much, and I'm trying to curl my arm around the disc, but I have to kind of do this pushing around to curl. Wasn't able to happen because I was pulling too much, and the pulling temptation was winning. They're competing with each other. Push to curl first though, now you're in this good curl, and now you can pull and maintain it.
Coil, pause, almost full reach back, slight elbow bend, and then a push around throw. Really soft throw.
Here I was combining push to curl with also trying to keep the wrist curled for as long as possible, which seemed to help the spin as well.
Now I'm calling this the push to curl throwing model because when I think about it and exaggerate it, it feels differently enough, and in my form I can see big enough differences compared to the other throwing models I've tried to where I now think about it as its own throwing model. Of course there's going to be overlap, and so when talking about throwing models, the two main ones are a pulling down the line, mental model of the throw, elbow drive centric, straight line, and then that transitions to swinging out. The swinging out, though, when you're pulling down the line, kind of just feels like a continuation of the pulling that results in what looks like a swinging. And that's the other model, though, swinging. So to me, swinging, as opposed to pulling, is more outward focused. Feels like instead of pulling down the line, I'm swinging more out. But as you swing out, the rotation makes your joints still bend. You still get into this power pocket if you have good internal shoulder rotation. You swing out, but the intention or the feeling is more outward, and this is what people naturally do with a racket or a paddle. When you're trying to hit a ball, it feels more like you're swinging outwards. And when people hold the disc like this and do this, whooshing shadow swing, I think it naturally makes people switch to a more swing type of throwing model. You see, even at higher power, it's a lot easier for people to keep that nice swing plane with that internal rotation, the elbow swinging open, because they're going to a swinging model. Then when they go back to trying to actually throw the disc, they're more likely to start pulling too much based on their ability to internally rotate, which is now in competition with your desire to pull. That makes a lot of people want to externally rotate. That wins. The pulling and external rotation wins and prevents the internal shoulder rotation from happening, unless you already have really good, strong internal shoulder rotation muscle memory. This is why I think and have seen more people benefit from a swinging model, because it helps reduce that urge from the pulling of going into the external rotation elbow dip. So that swing and pull model, there's going to be some overlap, of course. Third model is my twist pull through. Watch the video on that, link below for the full explanation. So here, instead of thinking about pulling during the pull through or swinging during the pull through, I'm just thinking about twisting, which gets me to internally rotate into a good power pocket. And it doesn't feel like I have to pull or swing, although I could emphasize twisting and pulling or twisting and swinging more out. Shoulder rotation is often used for twisting things, so thinking about it like that can help you really focus in on the feeling and learn how to do it more powerfully than the other stuff you're doing that's stopping you from internally rotating. And if you twist with a disc in your hand, internal rotation goes towards briefcase, which I think of as the top of the disc towards your chest. That's why this is still briefcase, even though it's flat to the ground, because I haven't moved my arm. Top of the disc is still towards your chest, which is a super common pattern that you see in so many pros because they're all internally rotated in the power pocket. And now push to curl. And if I think about it, I'd probably say a whippy model would be a fifth one, which makes me want to have my arm more loose and curly with like a out, in, out feeling to it, which has a little bit of a pulling curl towards yourself, but that tends to make me try to come too close to my body, and that makes me collapse if I do it too much. Push to curl merged with some pulling cues could be like pushing to curl around the disc, but now this side was like we're pulling down the line to keep that curl. Push to curl combined with some more swing emphasis, swinging outwards, swinging out. The weight of the disc drags you into wrist curl. So push to curl and then that swinging out. I can wrist curl them pretty easily, but now the same 16 pounds, if I put it on top of this disc here, that's hard. It would be even harder if I'm pulling this because it feels like it's getting heavier, pulling my wrist, keeping it straight, but push and then try to curl my wrist around the backside. Instead of having the weight pulling my wrist open, the weight instead is offset by my arm going in the opposite of the pulling and allows me to get that wrist curl and now hold it against the pulling that happens afterwards. Push, curl the wrist. Why is internal shoulder rotation the most important by far arm mechanic? When the elbow is bent or bending, which it is during the pull through, if I externally rotate, watch my elbow wants to come down and in towards the middle of my body. When I internally rotate, my elbow wants to naturally come up and away from the center of my body. Away from the center, that's elbow drive. Up, that's the elbow up that everybody's trying to do. And away from my chest, that's the space that we need for the pocket. So this internal rotation, this one thing, gets you all of the other most important things that people are chasing and trying to do directly. But so many people are finding, no matter how hard I try to elbow drive, it doesn't work. That's because if you don't internally rotate, you're going to externally rotate, and it's going to destroy your power pocket. No matter how hard I try, I can't keep my elbow up. Yeah, that's because when your elbow's bent, if you externally rotate, it's going to drive your elbow down. So all the power you're funneling into the throw is driving your elbow down. It doesn't matter if you try to hold it up, it's not going to win if you're funneling power into something that's driving the elbow down. But if you're funneling your power into something that naturally drives the elbow up and away from you and out to the side, elbow drive, then you can get all of those things to happen so much more easily. So another reason internal shoulder rotation is so hard for people, more counterintuitive than external shoulder rotation. So if I'm throwing this way, external shoulder rotation with my elbow bent, that feels like it's going to help me throw that way because I'm moving the disc that way. Internal shoulder rotation, if I'm throwing this way, watch which way the disc goes. It just went that way, the opposite way of throwing. So in a sense, push to curl kind of feels like you're resisting the urge to throw. As the pull through is starting, push the other way to curl. But that is helping me get to this power pocket position, which is what I need naturally explode out. It's like we're forcing the disc into a corner. There it has no option left but to explode out. I'm not trying to throw the disc during the pull through. I'm trying to get it into this position so that then I think a lot of people elbow dipping and externally rotating is because it feels like right away you're trying to get the disc, try to throw it down the line right away. Now, the disc is not purely moving the opposite direction when you internally rotate because of elbow drive naturally happening. So you can see here, disc is near my right pec, elbow drive and curl, disc is still near my right pec. But the forearm is still moving from here, this side of my body, to internally rotating, coming more across my body. That feels against the throwing direction to some degree. This push to curl, thankfully, you can exaggerate strongly. Just exaggerate the push to curl harder to stop yourself from doing the other things that you're doing
that are preventing you from getting into a power pocket.
Why is the timing of this peak reach back, push to curl? Because the power pocket is largely determined in the first split second of the pull through. Because the pull through, as soon as the pull through starts, which is really just mostly your rotation starting from your brace landing, that rotation, then your elbow bends, and as soon as your elbow starts bending, whatever's happening here is trending towards what your power pocket's going to be. So you can see right here, this looks like a good reach back, but as soon as my elbow starts bending, the very first moment it bends, you can already see it is trending in that direction, an externally rotated, elbow driving downwards, power pocket, vertical collapse. Or as soon as the pull through starts, you see the arm and the disc go this way, I'm instantly trending into a horizontally collapsed upper arm touching the chest, elbow dipped, externally rotated power pocket. It's already determined your power pocket is screwed, fixing the problem before it arises. And so that's what we're trying to do by going upstream in the timing. If you try to do something at the first split second of the pull through starting, it's very easy to be a little bit late. Especially at higher power, things are happening so quickly. So just as in drills, we have to exaggerate things to actually get ourselves to make a small change, this is like an exaggeration in timing. I want to do something at the start of the pull through to fix the start of my pull through so that I'm trending towards a good formation of the power pocket right away. So we're going to take one step before the start of the pull through and target that timing as an exaggeration. And the peak reach back should be happening close to when your brace is landing. So that's close to when the pull through is starting. So what you're doing, what your intention is at peak reach back is likely to carry over into the start of the pull through. Now you may be worried though, oh no, my reach back is early. So my peak reach back is early. So if I think about doing something during peak reach back, I'm going to do it way too early. You may have to work on your reach back timing separately, but it's not necessarily a problem if you reframe how you think about peak reach back. X step. And now I'm going to go like this. Looks like I've already gotten peak reach back. Wrong. If I keep striding my brace forward and now I stretch a little bit more right as my brace is landing, I have now reached peak reach back. And you can see some pros look like this.
To see how he was a finalist last year. He has the highest power wattage generated that I have witnessed.